Hi, welcome to Truth with Tal and Isaac. I'm Tal.
I'm Isaac.
Episode number 110. 110 episodes coming at you today. On fire. That's a lot of episodes. Big Lions win. Huge.
The biggest Lions win of my life.
Perhaps. Hot takes from week one of the NFL. And we have a special guest movie analyst talking about Oppenheimer. Good show.
He's a historian.
He's a historian.
That's how he goes down in the books.
For sure, Ian.
Okay,
Historian.
off the tops, go ahead.
Okay, Michigan Wolverines look good. Wide receivers are better than I thought. Roman Wilson, just solid. O-line, good, not great. I just worry about their ability to pressure quarterback in big games. But we don't have any big games until Penn State and Ohio State. I'm just excited. Go Blue.
I'm excited, and as some know, I have a Michigan-Ohio State ticket. That's been an investment of mine for the past few months. I'm sitting on it. It's looking great so far.
Drippy wants to go to that game, by the way.
So Michigan-Ohio State, boots on the ground, I may be in the house, but we'll see.
Okay. Quick Tiger talk. Not necessarily about the Detroit Tigers' performance. Fun night Saturday. 5:41 departure. 5 guys, 0 tickets. Arrived to our seats. Top of the first inning. Average price $17 Canadian for the 5 of us.
Yeah. So
Awesome.
we left. I'm in the back. They're scrambling to get tickets. It's cheaper to just buy 5 singles rather than 5 together.
Sure.
So I'm on like 6 different tickets sites.
You mean we didn't sit the tickets you bought?
I will say, so when I go and got the tickets scanned, they were all across the stadium.
All over. 5 singles all over the place.
Different section, and clearly the usher picked up on it and was just like, nice, man. Like, he gave me props. I appreciate that. Respect, John.
Yeah, this is the guy. This is not the guy checking at the seats. This is the guy checking us into the stadium.
Yeah, like security.
Totally knew what we were doing.
Yep, and he rocked with it, so I support that. Go Tigers. Good job.
Good ties. Equalizer 3. Just entertaining. Robert McCall is so scary. It's exciting.
Yeah, the Equalizer movies don't get a ton of love.
I don't think they get enough press. Like, just internationally, they're great.
Like, they're not on the level of the John Wick movies in terms of, like, budget and marketing and that kind of thing, but they're excellent
not
action
that much
movies.
of a step behind them.
And Denzel is so... He's one of the best actors of all time.
Yes.
And a lot of it is because he can play any character, and he'll sell you on it, but he sells you as this ex-CIA hitman guy, but he's also so different and so unique. Like, he's not like your Rambos or your John McClane. There are some whip
Ciao
parallels.
Roberto. Ciao Gabby.
Yeah. It's
Awesome.
Just Denzel Washington is the man. Like, for sure, top 5 favorite actors for me. Right up there with, like, Stallone, probably. I love Denzel. Equalizer 3, a lot of fun.
Yep. So I have a public service announcement.
I read this.
Stop, drop, and roll. Like, how many times were we taught that as a child? Like, literally hundreds of times. And let me think about the times where I've needed it in my life. 0. Yeah, 0 times. That's just a couple of things from my childhood. I thought I'd be on fire a lot. And I thought quicksand would be a bigger part of my life. It's not. No fires and no quicksand. Public service announcement. Next topic.
Yeah, I can confirm. I'll do a PSA. I've done this. I did it months ago. Not that I've had an encounter with one in a while, but what are those, the outside toilets? What are they called? The ones like construction sites.
Porta John?
Yeah, porta potties. We're in 2023. We got to have something better than porta potties. There's no way technology is not advanced where we can improve that. Haven't had a run in a while. But like, just really unpleasant experience. Always technology.
We got to be better.
We got to be better. There's no excuse.
Yeah.
There's no excuse.
Like, my watch has an unbelievable amount of technology, but Porta Johns, same technology since about 1940.
Yep, at least hand sanitizer on a consistent level in there. Like, there's improvements to be made.
True.
I don't know what my career will be, but if I end up in that business, I'll do my best to improve.
Good.
Okay.
Canada wins a bronze medal. Not the Olympics, but listen, it's a big step. You add Murray, Wiggins, Shaden Sharp, we're going for a medal in Paris.
FIBA World Cup, unfortunately, no one knows it happened. Just Canada media didn't cover it at all. I don't really get it.
I don't get it either. Like, you'd go to TSN for an update, and I don't go to TSN very much, but during this time, I was hoping there'd be some content. No, like, back page.
Yeah, just Canada was fantastic. They should have been in the finals. They easily could have won the finals.
Shea is him.
We knew that, but it was cool to see on a global level.
Can somebody explain to me, is Brooks that good? Like, I don't get it.
Well, Coach Rob texted me about Brooks. Coach
Rob knows.
I've been more pro Brooks than most, I would say. my biggest issue with him is not the antics. It's just like his offensive numbers. He is such a negative on the offensive end of the glass. Like it's unbelievable in terms of shot selection and how inefficient he is. He was highly efficient. Obviously, playing next to a guy like Shea helps that. Dylan Brooks, right? Like, obviously, I wouldn't have paid $20 million. I probably would have paid him $14 million a year. And he's making like 22, right? With
Probably looking okay now.
But Dylan Brooks, look, like, I'm not a huge Dylan Brooks fan, but if he's playing for Team Canada, he's my guy, right? So, Team Canada, a lot of fun, great basketball. Woke up early to watch them all the time. Great job, Canada.
Okay. A certain quarterback for the Jets. To all the gangrene fans, sorry about that.
Be careful what you say, but yeah, saw about that. Hope you get better, Aaron.
Yeah. Okay. Mel Tucker and MSU. Huge L. Come on. Be better.
Yeah, I'm not talking about that.
Isaac has a picture with him. I don't know what happened.
I met him before I knew he was a bad guy. Now I know he's a bad guy.
Did he touch your bum during the picture?
You can't. So now I have to contemplate for the next few minutes if I stop recording. Now you need to apologize because I'm not editing this.
Sorry, fans. Sorry, Isaac.
Yep.
Sorry, MSU. Bad. Brenda Tracy. Sorry to her too.
Yep. Just look it up. Mel Tucker, not a good guy, and we don't joke about these things.
Terrible.
Okay.
Okay. Do we want to talk about the Lions for a minute too? Because that's pretty relevant.
I
have some off the tops.
I have one off the top.
Okay.
And we'll talk about this later, but we're just gonna put it out there. I like music a lot. I like rap a lot. I like Travis Scott a lot. Me and a few of my buddies are going to go to Pittsburgh to see Travis Scott, and there's a good chance that Dad is going to Travis Scott with us.
Dad.
And anyone that I've told this, like, they're just like, oh, that's the coolest thing ever, bro. Like, that's so cool, bro. Like, your dad's going to see Travis Scott. Does he like Travis? No, he doesn't really listen to any.
I'm getting to learn to like Travis. Isaac gave me some homework. Listen to a fair amount of Kendrick. He's got a lot of stuff, and he's good. And I'm starting to get into the Travis stuff. It's good as well. It's not nice rap. Like, it's not
There's no
child
such
friendly.
thing as nice rap.
Sure, Will Smith is nice rap.
Not really, bruh. Like, a little bit. We're going to get you into Travis Scott. We'll update the fans because this is great content.
This is a developing story.
Yeah, but, like, we might be in Pittsburgh at a Travis Scott concert.
That'd be fun.
That's all I've got. Now let's talk about the Detroit Lions.
Okay, so, listen, there's just been jugs of Kool-Aid passed around Detroit, Windsor, Michigan, Ontario, for about, I guess, since they beat Green Bay. And now the Kool-Aid's starting to taste good. It's delicious. The Lions had a huge win over the defending Super Bowl champion Kansas City Chiefs in their house. Yeah, they didn't have a couple guys, but they still had the best player on the planet. And they beat them, right? Like, they've got a very good defense. They got good, well, they supposedly had pretty decent skill players. Like running backs didn't really do anything. We get a lot of hot takes. You want to talk about the viewing party?
You can.
Are we allowed to talk about the viewing party?
Yeah, you can. Go ahead.
So Isaac and his friends, they will remain nameless, invited Old Man to the viewing party. It was in the basement of a certain post-secondary school.
One that I'm not enrolled in.
One that he's not enrolled in.
So slim pickings.
Slim pickings. So we went down there, set up, like, good viewing party. We're watching it. And the story was, if somebody came and asked what we were doing, easy. I'm a sports management prof, and we're just talking about marketing in the NFL. So about half an hour after that, one of the guys who was there, who we won't name, although I think the group text is under his name, says, so what do you teach? I might have you next year. It's pretty awesome.
One of my buddies missed, I guess, a conversation and thought that my dad was actually a professor, and this was actually a class that we were, like, taking. But regardless, it was a great time at that unnamed educational institution, watching football on the projector, great vibes. That's enough for the viewing party there. It was a lot of fun. It was good. Do you have anything else on the watch party before we talk about football?
Football.
Okay, so I'll go for a bit here.
Yeah, you go.
So the biggest Lions game of my life was the 2014 wildcard game. We've talked about this ad nauseum. I remember that game extremely well. I remember watching. I remember everything about that. And that was the biggest game of my life. That would have been the biggest win. This, I looked at the record. I think this is the biggest Lions win in my life. And in recent Lions history, right? Like, the stakes I wouldn't say are huge, but we all kind of said, if we win, it's a 10-day parade. And it's all
sure.
in. Like,
Yeah.
if we win, and then if we don't win, it was against the best player in football at his house, Super Bowl champ. Like, we're okay. everyone had this down as a loss, except Dan Campbell, seemingly. So when we did our records, everybody's like, this is a loss. So let's say you had 10-7.
I had it as a loss.
Let's say you had 10-7 or 11-6. Those are two pretty realistic Lions schedule predictions. Not totally in play and highly likely that happens. But everyone had the Chiefs game as a loss. So not that we have breathing room. We don't want to have breathing room. But the fact that this was a win, it's like, all right, if we lose a game to, Chicago later in the year at Chicago, I'm okay. Because this is such a big win. It just means so much for the franchise, for the fans. Like, this is just such a big deal. Now, I'll let you run for a bit.
Okay, so a couple of things that were really obvious to everybody watching the game. Daniela, who watched probably 3 plays when we weren't even here, said, why is that right tackle?
Did she actually?
No, she didn't. Oh. But it's just an exaggeration how easy it was to call the hundreds of penalties that should have been called against the right tackle. What was his name?
Jawan Taylor. Very briefly, Lions won, so I'm not going to dwell on this, but I will say it's worth slightly discussing. Respectfully, I think he committed an infraction on every single pass play. Respectfully, I think that's a fact. He was either lined up in the slot or he went early, and a lot of times both. And we live noticed the going early. That's what stood out to us. And then the more tape that you watch and the more replays you see, it's like, oh, he is in the slot. Like when you look at the position.
And when you hear the announcers talk about what the actual rule is, we're like, okay, we're 100% right. And he's offside every single pass play and even some of the run plays.
And then they call my guy Gene Sterator and they're like, yo, Gene, what's going on here? And Gene's like, this is an incredible disadvantage for the defense. Taylor has an unbelievable advantage. I'm not sure how it's not getting called. And then you hear the ref guy saying this. So obviously we're not going to riot because we still won. But if we lost, there was going to be a riot, respectfully.
Bad. So the aggressive play calling, it's come to be one of Dan Campbell's calling cards. Aggressive play calling, even a bit reckless. Currently, it seems to pay off more than it hurts. And I think this is just something we're going to have to live with. Hopefully, there's more pros and cons. Isaac's line has always been, until it hurts us in a big game. It's going to hurt us in a big game at some point.
Okay, you're twisting my words. My words about Goff have been, I'm in on Goff until he loses us a big game.
Goff or Campbell with the recklessness?
Campbell, I'm fine with. Okay. Campbell's learned on the job. The Goff, there's some bad in this game, which we will get to a little bit. Fake punt on your own 17, I think on your second drive, which was in the first quarter, is just absolutely psychotic behavior.
I know.
Like, it's similar to Jimmy...
Psychotic, but awesome.
No, it's like Jimmy Butler down 10, just screaming at Drew Holiday. That's it's the same level of that's awesome. That's awesome. Psychotic, but we love it.
Dart in the neck, kind of awesome.
So the Dan Campbell thing, it's part of the gig. He learned on the job the past couple of years, and I think he knows he's a better coach now than he was 2 years ago. But I love it, and it's part of it. It's part of the game. It's part of watching Lions games now.
Yep. Obviously, hot takes with the depth at running back. Montgomery, solid runner, good pass blocker. He's still going to get more touches and more time on the field than Gibbs for a while, but you are going to be unable to keep Gibbs off the field because he is electric.
I will talk briefly. Do you want to talk about the bad of the game, or do we just want to talk about the good for now?
We can talk about the bad, but it's got to be quick.
Okay, 4 of our 11 drives were 3 and out. It's not great. We got to be better there. I will say Monty, I don't think looked particularly great. I'm not a Montgomery guy. I've been vocal about this. I've received a lot of crap for it. For one, I'm anti-pay running back. So if you're going to pay a running back, I have to love him, and I don't love him. So it's as simple as that. Marvin Jones, we're going to be brief here with We're going to be brief, as this was a win, and we will not say some of the choice words we said, like Marvin Jones should be in a home. We're not going to say things like that. We're not going to say Marvin Jones should be...
It'd be inappropriate to say Martin Jones has got a place booked at Amica with Chef Goldman.
Yep, it would be bad to say. It'd be inappropriate to say that. Marvin Jones, we're going to visit him at the long-term care home.
Yeah.
That we're not going to say these things.
No, that'd be mean.
We're just going to say we hope he stays a good locker room guy.
Yes.
Okay? I think he's a nice man.
Yep.
There's a lot of breakdowns in the secondary. We got to fix that up a little bit.
Some breakdowns. I wouldn't say a lot.
I think if they catch a couple passes, we talk about this more.
Correct.
Talking about catching a couple passes, we'll talk about Tony more briefly. Historically bad game for Tony.
Yeah.
Anytime
it was passed to him, it was like negative points.
Yeah, so both Tony and Moore had negative expected points per target.
Unheard of.
And Tony's was like negative 2.4, meaning if you throw him the ball 3 times, the Lions score a touchdown on one of those 3 targets. And that's what happened in the game. Shout out Brian Branch. So Tony and Moore, historically bad games. That's all I got for the bad. We needed a Tony We needed a Tony disaster class to get a win, and that's fine. We're not going to get one.
I have one more bad thing.
Go.
I'm worried about the defensive line other than Hutch.
I'm not so much. Just because I really think Hutch is that guy, and I think he's going to draw 2 every time. And like we saw with Houston, I think it's going to open things up. Obviously, D tackles are a little scary. I don't love that. There is a hole there. But like, I think I'm all in on Hutch. Like,
For sure.
Okay, we'll talk about
and I don't care what the stats say, because realistically, the stats said he was an average defensive lineman last week. That's foolish, right? Just because watch the game and realize the impact he has on the game. And ask Mahomes if he thinks he's an average defensive lineman.
Depending on where you look. Hutch's Pro Football Focus grade wasn't great, but a lot of the other analytics and the pressure stats were great too. The good. You talked about Gibbs. I wrote down Gibbs is going to be a force, and then I wrote for the next 4 years. That's just part of it.
That's what we said on Thursday.
Amon-Ra. The thing with Amon-Ra is like he just gets open all the time.
Yep.
And I think that a lot of it's Ben Johnson. Just schemes Amon-Ra open at the right times. And Amon-Ra has just got a knack for that.
Good moves, good hands, tough as nails.
And him and Goff are always on the same page.
Yep.
Laporta looked good. Do you have any notes on Laporta?
He's a good one.
Okay. Hutch, we talked about Hutch. I just wrote down Hutch is hungry. Hutch looked really hungry this year.
Yep.
And he always was, and he was at Michigan. I wonder if he's a little pissed off that people aren't talking about him like they are the other defensive guys. Just like I wonder.
Yep. Bosa's getting all this love.
Bosa and
Myles
Watt.
Garrett getting all this love.
CJ Gardner-Johnson.
Tough.
So he's the anchor of the defense. We knew he was good. I didn't know how much of like a catalyst of fights he would be.
Yeah.
But I love it. You need a guy like this on a good team. And before they didn't really have one. Like you get Hutch a little chippy. Panay just wants to fight anybody, and I love it. But you need a guy like Gardner-Johnson, who's just an awesome veteran who will just talk to anybody. And he's probably going to be my favorite offseason guy other than Gibbs.
Okay. I agree with you. Offensive line, I think we need to talk about them a little bit more. Obviously, it's been their focus for the last 4 or 5 years. Even when they're poop, they're building offensive linemen. They are big, and they are talented, and they are mean. And that is 3 good words to describe your offensive lineman. It's going to be a top 5 offensive lineman for the next couple of years. Hopefully they keep drafting 3rd round, 4th round, 5th round guy, and one of those guys is going to, play up and replace,
Probably right guard is the
right guard probably. Decker is going to be good for a couple of years, but they're going to need to replace him at some point. If you're going to buy a jersey, Penei Sewell's the jersey you're buying?
I'm probably not going to, but if I were to buy a jersey, it would be Panay. Yeah.
Okay. Branch, I think you need to mention along with Gardner-Johnson. Just going to be beasts all year, wreaking havoc in the secondary. Linebackers, solid, not spectacular.
Yeah, that's fair.
Made a couple good plays.
Campbell made that one awesome play.
Yeah.
And I do think Campbell's going to be great. I like what I'm hearing. I like Rodrigo for the most part. Anzalone's fine for now. All the line
I still would like another linebacker who's a physical freak who can run around the field and chase everybody down. And
like an off-ball guy.
Yeah, like you're not going to say Micah Parsons because that's too easy a take, but somebody who's a physical freak. I'd like one of those guys in the linebacking core. Yeah,
a Devin White, a Patrick Queen, Roquan Smith, one of those like hyper athletic, fast 6'3" linebackers that can just hit and cover. Yep. Those guys are the best in Madden, and the Lions don't really have one. I don't think Campbell is going to be that. But I agree. You need an athletic freak linebacker. I agree. And I have come up with a new way for us to record our podcasts. Well, come on, bro.
It's a good one. When Fox punts the ball, by the time it lands, we have to finish our podcast. That's the kind of hang time that he gets.
Okay. Yeah, go get a Fox jersey then, dude.
He's awesome.
He's a great punter. Yeah, he's a great punter. I like Fox.
Okay. That's it.
I will say this, the last thing. I want to go to a Lions game very much, very much. It's incredibly expensive. So I think what I'm going to do is just not go during the regular season. I might go on like Sunday. Because if I'm going to go, Seattle's the game. Week 2, that place is going to be rocking. That's the game.
It's going to be so loud.
If I don't go, I think I'm just not going to go at all. And then I'm just going to say, hey, I didn't go at all, so I'm able to spend X amount of dollars on a playoff game. Because that would be a big deal. So I think that's what I'll probably do.
Okay.
Thoughts?
I think it's a good take. You know what? Karma's going to find us. We're going to get some tickets this year.
Yeah, that'd be nice. That would be ideal.
Like, I think we're owed some tickets, right? Like, the amount of love that we share about the Detroit Lions, somebody's going to say, hey, Truth Boys, here's some tickets.
Yeah, so if you ever have tickets, we know a couple guys.
And you're not going to find better fans than us.
Respectfully, unless they have a really awesome podcast about the Lions. So give us your tickets is the moral here.
I need to give a shout out to our buddy Andrew McLeod.
Sure.
Who he told us a story about when we had tickets to go see a baseball game, and you were a young lad. Like, this is 6 or 7 years ago, probably.
Okay.
And we invited Andrew, and I invited his buddy, and I don't think I worded it well enough to say, hey, you know what, my son's going to go too, so like everybody will get along. And Andrew interpreted that as, is his buddy like a foul-mouthed, mean, yelly fan? Because I don't want to have a bad impression of my son. And I think Andrew described me as, oh, he's the guy who wears a suit, he's a pretty good fan, he's a good dude. And then we sit down, and Isaac and I are both yelling and screaming and like number one fans. And Andrew and Keith are like, whoa, these guys are real fans.
Yeah, good story.
Yeah, it's a good story.
Wasn't. It was about
No, it just shows you how good we are as fans.
Okay, all right. Let's talk about the NFL as a whole after week 1. You have the NFC, I have the AFC. I'll let you kick things off with some stupid things.
Okay, San Francisco, they are for real. Their defense is scary. Brock pretty solid. CMC, wow, good. Like, wow, good.
Yeah, wow, good. Come on, bro. That's really...
That's what I wrote down. CMC is wow, good.
Okay, so you open with San Francisco being good. That's your opener.
They're the best team in the NFL right now.
Okay, yeah, I agree. Yeah, they played one game and it was against
the best
a bad
team in the NFL. You talk about them first.
Okay, I'm going to talk about the best game of week 1.
Okay,
Jets Bills, which you watched about 6 minutes of. That's fine.
I didn't watch a lot of it. Sorry.
So I will say one of the best pregame moments in recent history was Aaron Rodgers running out with the American flag in New York on 9/11. The place went nuts, like the mics broke. And I'm not American, and I'm not a Rodgers guy, but that was really cool.
Like George Bush throwing the first pitch of the Yankee game, kind of cool?
Yeah, and there's that old clip of like the baseball player, some guys are like protesting with the American flag.
Oh, that's awesome.
Like there's like stuff like that where it's like, you know what, that's cool. When you watch a movie like Fury and you're like, yeah, that's cool, right? Yeah. That was a cool moment. So 3 dropbacks for Rodgers, 4 plays, pressured each time. Like I was texting my buddy while we were watching, like, man, Jets O-line pass protection does not look good. So then he blows his Achilles on the 3rd dropback. It was really awkward. Like he went up and then went down. And it was like, okay, whatever. Initially, I'm sorry, I thought it was like, oh, we're just doing this antics already, because I've seen it for 12 years. And then it turns out he's actually... So get better soon, Aaron, right?
So the 9/11 thing, was that a true story? About Rodgers questioning it?
Yeah, we're not going to talk about this, but yeah, like if you look up Aaron Rodgers 9/11, he has questioned it.
Okay,
which I thought was a little...
Because now there's some memes about Aaron Rodgers and a little airplane crashing into his Achilles.
Oh, okay, that's enough. I'm going to keep talking about this game.
Okay.
So Aaron Rodgers leaves, Zach Wilson checks in, and then the New York fans pick up on this, and it's like, hey, it's Monday Night Football. We lost our guy. We're here. We hate Zach Wilson, but we're just going to go nuts for him. So they go nuts for Zach Wilson. He looked awful pretty much the whole game.
That interception was terrible.
He just looked terrible. Breece Hall looked fantastic. Like his number. I don't have his numbers, but he was 17 yards a carry.
Yeah, Peyton and Eli like, why don't you just give it to Hall? Because I think he's averaging about 36 yards a touch.
I would say Dalvin Cook didn't look great. Like, looked okay. And maybe it's up because Breece Hall just looked awesome, but I didn't love Dalvin Cook's minutes. The Jets' defense is Super Bowl caliber. They just are going to make plays, keep him in it. Allen, 4 turnovers, some really poor decisions. The Bills aren't going to have an easy time with division, even with the Jets out of the picture. Because, look, the Jets aren't winning division now. But they're going to be pesky, and they might be a wild... I don't think they'll be a wild card
Miami's got to be happy.
We're going to talk... I'm in on Miami. I'll talk about them in a minute. Sure. Okay, I'll present you some quarterbacks. You tell me what you're doing if you're the Jets.
Okay.
Jameis Winston.
4th round pick.
Okay. Davis Mills.
No.
Do you know who that is?
Yeah.
Okay. Cooper Rush.
No.
Oh, I kind of like Cooper. Okay. Jacoby Brissett. That could very well happen. My insiders say it might happen.
4th round pick.
Do we talk about Tom Brady?
No.
Okay. Okay.
I mean, he might float it out there just for entertainment purposes, but he's not going to go to the Jets to get beat up behind that line.
Okay, but it would be like...
Oh, it'd be amazing.
Out of all the coolest things that could happen in football, yeah. and the biggest F you to Rodgers would be like, I'm just going to sign a 12-game contract and just be the man in New York.
Yeah.
So Jets-Bills, just an awesome, awesome football game. Ended in an awesome moment. Good job, New York. A lot of fun. Okay, go ahead.
I actually feel a little bad for the Chicago Bears fans. Like, they had this hype and, oh my gosh, like... Justin Fields is like Jalen Hurts. Now he's got a better line. He's got some weapons. He's terrible. He can't throw the ball. They don't have enough receivers. They don't have any tight ends. They don't have a running back. Poor guy. I think he's a pretty good quarterback. Man, he better start wearing an Iron Man suit because he is going to get destroyed.
I think I'm a little higher on Chicago than you are.
Really?
Yeah, I think so. Because you seem incredibly low on them. I think they're okay.
Did you watch any of that game?
Yeah, I watched a fair amount of it. I think they're okay, and I think they have some pieces, right? Like I like Cole Kmet. I like Khalil Herbert. I like some guys. I don't know if you've seen any of the Chase Claypool stuff. People called him out. He just didn't try, and everyone's roasting him now. The Bears. Look, I don't think the Bears are winning division, but I think they're okay.
Okay, good for you.
Thanks.
Bad take.
Bengals Burrow. So they looked like as worse as you can.
Can you
look.
explain that to me? Because I really haven't had a lot of time to research it.
So I can. So Joe Burrow was 14 for 31 with 82 yards. They lost 24-3. Burrow looked terrible, and I'll explain it right here. One, the Bengals start slow. Last year they lost week 1 and week 2, and then went on to win 12 of 14. Another point is Burrow's not played a ton. Burrow's not 100%.
He's been dinged up.
He hasn't had a ton of first team reps. So there, I just explained it there. And I think the Browns are okay. We talked about this. I think the Browns are okay. Bengals were a little rusty, haven't played a ton together. So I just wanted to say that out there. I'm still in on the Bengals. Just a little like, okay, would have liked 85 yards, not 82.
Yeah. Sorry about that, Evan. The Giants are poop again. Oh my gosh. Listen, Dallas is solid, and they're a good team, but they just smacked down on the Giants. But here's the thing about Dallas, and I think we both are confident in that. They're going to screw something up. Conduct or contract or something dumb. Jones is going to mess something up. Dallas is going to look good for most of the year. Then they're going to screw up. So Giants are going to be poop the whole year. Dallas is going to be pretty good until about 3/4 of the way through the season.
I'm higher on the Giants than you are.
Okay.
I like Dayball. I like those pieces a lot.
I like Jones, but I just don't think he's got enough guys.
The Cowboys, I'm in complete agreement. Sorry, Doran. Doran's going to come on in a couple weeks and just he's just going to say the Cowboys are going to win the Soupy again like he did last year. It's not going to happen.
No, sorry, Doran.
I'll talk about the Colts here. I talked a lot about Anthony Richardson. I'm rooting for him. And he looked maybe the best of all the rookie quarterbacks.
He did look pretty good, but I'm afraid of what they're going to do to him. Why are you calling so many quarterback rushes inside the 4-yard line?
Okay, he only had 10 rushes for 40 yards. I like it. And we're going to unleash him, okay? And he threw for 223. He had a really bad pick, and he overthrew guys. That's kind of his thing. At Florida, he just missed guys high all the time. But I am in on Anthony Richardson. Let's talk about the Colts running game. So they've got all these guys, and they all suck. Deion Jackson, I don't know if you caught any of this, had maybe the worst running back game in recent memory. 13 carries, 14 yards, 5 catches, 14 yards, 2 fumbles, both lost.
It's terrible.
And then their rookie got injured,
not see that.
and Zach Moss is injured. So basically, Jonathan Taylor has so much leverage. He didn't have a ton of leverage, but he has much more now. So I worry about Richardson, and if that's his running game, what's it going to look like? But I'm going to watch the Colts. Like, I'm in on the Colts. I'm going to watch them. I like them.
Okay, Atlanta running back combo, probably the best in the league with Tyler Algiers. Am I pronouncing that correctly?
Just one. Algier, not multiple.
Algier.
Yeah.
And Bijan Robinson, obviously the rookie. He's got lots of spice and dice. But they can't throw the ball. So think about the Lions, but with nobody playing quarterback. And obviously Amon-Ra, St. Brown kind of makes it crazy. But I'll tell you what, in a couple of weeks, you're going to have a great smash mouth game with the Lions. And this will be like Carolina last year when they had to stop the run. Against Atlanta, that's going to be a good test to say, okay, can you line up and can you stop the run? Because they've got a couple guys who can make some stuff happen.
Yeah, I agree. Let's go with Chargers-Dolphins here. Okay, so 36-34 Dolphins. It was a lot of fun. I'm going to just go out and say, you want to talk about a hot take? Like, healthy Tua is going to be top 3, top 5 in the MVP race.
Agreed.
Because they're going to win enough games. They're going to make the playoffs. And he put up 466 yards and looked really, really good. Then they're going to move the ball at will. We'll talk about Tyreek Hill. So we talked about 2,000 yards. He had 215 yards week 1. He needs to average 112 yards per game from here on out to get 2,000. If he stays healthy, like if he plays every game, he will get this.
I agree with you.
It's a matter of is he going to get dinged up? Is he going to pull?
They have the offense, and I keep thinking. A couple of years ago, we were a little down on Tyreek Hill. He was getting lots of targets at KC and not getting as many completions, and we're thinking, it's not worth it. But he seems to be pretty good in the in the Miami offense. Obviously, they've got a lot of speed on the offense, so they can't put as much focus on Hill as they probably need to. Wow, they're fun to watch.
They're really fun to watch. We don't love Hill. Like, he is a convict. But I think a lot of it is Mike McDaniel and having Jalen Waddle next to him and having all those guys. I think obviously Hill's great. I recognize that. But I think this is the perfect system for him to be in. You go ahead.
I got to apologize to Bryce Young. you're just going to get beat up the next couple of years. I hope you do the jiu-jitsu classes that Tua took. They had to give up. Carolina had to give up a lot to get him. And what happens is hang on just a second.
No.
Oh, Isaac's just saying, make sure I clear my throat away from the mic. Sometimes I forget that. I get a little excited.
Keep talking, please. We're tight. Unbelievable.
They've got a lot of guys on defense. I like Carolina's D, but their offense is going to be bad. Sorry, Bryce Young.
Okay, the Steelers looked awful. Everyone thought the Steelers were going to win the Super Bowl, and they looked terrible. They were a 1-point underdog playing San Francisco, and at one point they were down 199 yards to 1 yard.
Come on, really?
Yeah. I still think Pittsburgh is okay, and I like the strides that Pickett has made the past end of last year into the preseason. But let's all say, like, all right, let's chill here. Pittsburgh is not winning that division, and San Francisco, like you talked about, is really good. I just wanted to say, like, everyone relax about Pittsburgh. And we're going to see a game in Pittsburgh maybe, so that will be
maybe.
cool.
I have a question about Love. How good is he? Because Green Bay can't have Favre, and then Rodgers, and then they can't have Love being really good.
Jordan Love is going to be fine. I haven't watched...
Define fine, like top...
Goff.
Okay, I'm okay if he's 14 or 15 or 16. I just don't want another top 5 quarterback up in Green Bay for another decade or so.
No, I don't think he's going to be a top 5, top 10 guy.
Good, thank you. Just made me feel better. Thank you.
Texans lost 25-9. I kind of liked what I saw to Houston.
Did you?
They played the first half. They played really hard.
They played tough.
I think D'Amico Ryans. I think people like him. I think that locker room likes him. Stroud made some plays. Like, he looked better than Young, I would say, but he didn't look as good as Richardson. Damian Pierce, I love. He didn't play a ton, but he's the man.
You like Pierce.
I just think Houston's going to be pesky. Like, I think they're going to be in a lot of games. They're going to cover a lot of spreads, a lot of first half spreads. I like Houston.
We're still waiting for an Ohio State quarterback who was great at Ohio State to be good in the NFL.
Yep, and let's not wait anymore. Okay, it's just not going to happen.
Okay.
What else?
Glass slipper has broken in Minnesota.
What does that mean, dude?
Like, they had the magic. They had magic last year. It's gone. Poof. They're done.
Okay, like...
That's my take.
Okay, Green Bay or Minnesota?
Minnesota.
Okay, so you have Minnesota second in the division.
Oh, sorry. Green Bay or Minnesota. Who's second? Green Bay.
So Minnesota's going to win what? Like 8 games? 7 games? You think?
7.
Okay, 7 to 10. That's fine with me.
Yep.
Jags. I will not talk about them long.
You love the Jags.
I'm an honorary Jags guy, honorary Jags, honorary Chargers guy. Lawrence MVP, Ridley Offensive Player of the Year, Doug Peterson Coach of the Year. They're gonna win 12 games. They're gonna win the division. Let's go. I'm in on Jacksonville. Just place your bets now.
This is making Urban Meyer look real good, eh?
Oh, really? Yeah, that's part of my hate. Even though Urban earned my respect. I don't know if you remember at the Big Ten Championship game, we chirped him the whole game, and he played along with us.
Yeah.
So I have some respect for Urban.
Cool.
But yeah, he's not a good guy. Okay, go ahead.
Matt Stafford said, "Hey, I'm not done. I'm right here." Boy, he can still chuck it when he's healthy, and he's chucking it to who's that guy, Poco or something? That dude?
Yeah, Pakua Nakua. It's something like
a
that.
6th-round draft pick or something. Fun to watch. So one of the things you didn't mention it. Do the Jets try and trade for Stafford?
No,
Why not?
because they already punted enough assets on Rodgers. They're not going
But
to.
now they're going to punt a little less assets. It's not a first round; it's a second rounder.
They're not going to give up. They're not. I don't think they're going to do that for a year.
They should.
And then it depends if Rodgers comes back and when he's like. Well, this is a whole other segment.
I guess that's going to mess up salary cap. And
I don't
stuff
expect
too,
Stafford to be in a Jet uniform.
right? Okay.
I don't expect Brady either. I expect a Brissett or one of those guys. Perhaps Cooper Rush. I do like Cooper Rush.
Thanks to the NFL for coming back. Good week one.
I have one more. The Patriots. Patriots lost to Philly. Patriots I view in a higher regard to Houston, but kind of similar in the sense where it's like they're not a great team, but New England's just going to stay in a lot of games. Mac Jones actually pretty good in the second half, and I'm not a Mac guy.
You look pretty decent.
And the Patriots too, like the Jets, elite defense, going to be a pesky, little below 500, borderline 500 team. But that division is just too tough. New England won't be able to contend for that division. But I will say they look pretty good. Okay, wow. So we're gonna talk about Oppenheimer. I'll let you kick things off, and I'm gonna call Pedro.
Okay, so I went to see Oppenheimer a couple weeks ago. It was great. You talk.
So Oppenheimer, I saw this on opening night with a bunch of buddies, and it just blew me away. And I'm like, this is one of the best movies I've ever seen. And I've only left the theater thinking that a couple times. So we have Dune, Get Out, and Joker. Were 3 movies where I left the theater and like, I have to talk about this with people.
Dune, Get Out,
And Joker. You heard
Oppenheimer, and Joker.
Joker. Where
Okay.
I left the theater and like, this, I'm going to remember this. Obviously, Endgame and Spider-Man, but in terms of an actual like piece of cinema, Oppenheimer is about as good as it gets. Okay? Any
I would
thoughts?
consider Isaac and I both to be people who appreciate good movies and like history, but we are bringing in an expert who is, Isaac classified him as a historian, and I would second that notice. So we are bringing in Pedro the Great, not the Pedro from Napoleon Dynamite. Pedro, our buddy, who's here joining us live on the show. Pedro, welcome to the Truth to Tal and Isaac.
Tal and Isaac, thank you so much for having me. Huge fan. Been a fan of the show for a while now. It's good to be on.
Okay, so Pedro, you can hear us okay?
Hear you perfect.
Excellent. So I will kick things off with just saying Oppenheimer, what it did at the box office was historical. The industry needed it. You can appreciate it on more of a historical sense. And I'd like you to talk briefly about that. We'll all go around. We'll talk about Oppenheimer for a few minutes and then just riff. Okay, so Pedro, opening thoughts. Oppie, tell the people, what do you think?
2 words. Well, 1 word. Fantastic, Isaac. Honestly, it's there could not have been a more salient time for a film of this magnitude to drop, and Nolan really hit it on the head.
Wow, that's a good opening sentence with lots of big words.
Multiple facets. We can get into it in a bit, but just phenomenal film.
Okay, talk about some of those facets right now. What did you like most about it?
Well, I think the ethical dilemma of the bomb was one of the most salient topics that could have been kind of introduced at a time like this. Think of the situation in the Ukraine with geopolitics and in Russia and China and the conversation right now around nuclear bombs. It's you can't, and it was alluded to in the film. Can we give spoilers?
Yes, we can give spoilers.
Yeah,
Okay,
spoilers. Spoiler alert.
Alluded to it several times. It was alluded to the fact that you can't put this pony back in the barn, so to speak. It's you made the bomb, and now you got to live in that world. And so we're seeing that play out in real time. Around the world around us, and you see these kind of let's call them flashpoints developing. China, Africa, Ukraine, and it's
North Korea.
It's the same conversation. North Korea, exactly. Tal. Same conversation comes back up every time. It's what happens if they pull out the nukes, and it's in that conversation that Robert Oppenheimer kind of changed the world forever.
Good take. Tal, go ahead.
I think it was a wonderful melding of science, history, and emotion. I don't think people realize how significant a role in history the bomb played. There was a lot of politics that got into relevant play with the Americans spending $2 billion in the early 1940s, and what that translates to today. They didn't really have much of a choice but to drop the bomb. They say they saved 1 million lives, and that's a bit of propaganda, but it changed the world forever. And I think people kind of forgot how big a role Japan played in World War II and the Battle of the Pacific. This stopped all of that. And Japan, after the bomb, they have changed probably more than any country in the last 100 years. And I think a lot of it has to do with the work that J. Robert Oppenheimer and his crew did in the deserts of New Mexico.
Yeah. Okay, Pedro, go ahead. Thoughts? What else?
Just to build on that, Tal, I couldn't agree more. I think, if you look at the Manhattan Project, that was... let's call it what it is. J. Robert Oppenheimer was the project manager of the century. It was his job. They called him and they said, listen, we need this done. This is your timeline. And they were gunning for the Nazis. That was their goal. They wanted to use that bomb on Germany. And that's kind of, alluded to in the film when he's galvanizing his team of scientists, and he goes, his only regret is that they didn't get to use it on the Nazis. And that was the point. The point of this was to create a weapon so terrifying, so terrible, that it would force you into submission. And I guess in that kind of vein, it accomplished its goal. At that time, Japan was probably the least likely Axis power to surrender, due to many factors. But the main one being
culturally, they were just not going to surrender.
Right, and they were an island, and the casualties suffered in the Pacific were like that. They hadn't even touched the mainland. The Allies had not even reached a single point of egress in the mainland of Japan. Mm-hmm. And they knew that if they were on the mainland, they would have, casualties would have been in the millions.
So I'll talk about the movie as a whole. So I'm not going to talk about Barbie here, but Barbie is the reason why this movie didn't make more money, right? So Barbie came out, everybody saw it. So Oppenheimer was never number one at the box office, and it still made $900 million, which stuff like that just doesn't happen. 3-hour biopics don't make $900 million. It just does not happen. They don't get made usually. That's the thing. One of my favorite things about this movie, maybe my favorite thing, is it works on every level. It works as a political thriller. It works as a historical biopic. It works as like a World War II period piece. And then, Pedro and I talked about this. This was right away when I walked out of this. It turns into like an Avengers-style team-up movie for 30 minutes.
It's true.
When Matt Damon is Nick Fury and goes to Oppie, who's Tony Stark, and says like, put together your crew. And they just go from country to country and get their guys to make this super team, essentially. It worked on every level. I will say the humor, there are some bits of humor. Those landed. Everything about this movie worked for me. And I thought it's a sensitive topic and something I didn't know a ton about, and I still don't. But I watched it from a relatively I'm just going to sit down and I know a little bit of the historical context, and I know the actors and I know the people involved, and I loved it. I thought it was brilliant.
I just want to talk about the pace of the movie for a minute. More than 3 hours, and the pace was great the entire time. I didn't think it had highs and lows. It just stayed at a good level the whole time. The score was always there, and I read a couple comments online that people couldn't hear sometimes, and the music overpowered. I don't think so. I think you really had to pay attention to this movie the entire time. Isaac and his friends were kind of making fun of me because I'm somebody who falls asleep during a movie. There was never a time where I got even a little sleepy because the movie grabbed me. The acting was so good. The casting was so good. How many people are going to get Oscar nominees out of this?
So the actors that will get nominated, you're gonna get Cillian Murphy's gonna get nominated for Best Actor.
For sure.
Downey is gonna get nominated for Supporting. Damon might get nominated for Supporting, and then Blunt will get nominated for Supporting Actress. And then it'll get all the technical nominees. Pedro, you got a lot more notes. Go ahead. What do you got?
Just building on that vein of themes and scores and things that we appreciated. I think that it's worth highlighting that I really, really, really commend Nolan for avoiding one of the traps of cinematography and kind of giving into this sensationalizing aspect of it. The actual bomb drop was very underwhelming. If you'll both agree, it was not a centerpiece. It wasn't a focal point. It was more.
He didn't use any CGI.
No, they were just like, yep, we dropped the bomb, and now we're going to talk about what that means for the world. And it didn't really center the movie around the bomb. It centered the movie around the impact the bomb would have on psychology, on the world. And, the use of themes like the ripples in the water with Einstein.
Explain that, because I haven't talked a ton about that, and I think people will find that cool.
So I think the ripples really signify that, you can't control, once you've pushed that marble over the edge, you cannot control what happens. It's like that whole Einstein in Oppenheimer bit where he says, we thought we were going to destroy the world, in reference to the unstoppable chain reaction. And it didn't happen, but Oppenheimer still remarks that, I think we did destroy the world because we've opened Pandora's box and we can't close it. We've created a weapon so devastating that everything in the world, every conversation that happens now in terms of, conflict is going to revolve around this weapon.
I do think that Nolan and the politicians at the time realized the dangers of opening Pandora's box, but thought that the risk of those future dangers were outweighed by the threat of Nazism and fascism.
Certainly. That argument can be made all day long, right? And that's it was a convincing enough argument that they built the bomb, right, Tal?
Yep.
When I got out of the movie, it was just, like I said, it was one of those movies where I just wanted everybody to see it. I think this has something for everybody. It's an important movie to see. You talk about the timing of it coming out. 2023 has had a lot of good movies, but this is one that's just going to be in 50 years, everyone's going to remember, you remember seeing Oppenheimer? What was Oppenheimer like? I think that it talks about the future, and you talk about the ripples in the water. So I'll just break down that a little. We see some water and we see raindrops and we kind of see a little ripple. And I didn't totally get it because they focused on this a few times throughout the film. At the end of the movie, we see like a zoom out of the world and we see bombs being dropped and we see the ripple it's making. And that's the parallel there. And we see that right at the end with the Einstein and Oppenheimer bit. Pedro, do you want to talk briefly about Einstein's involvement in the movie? Because I thought that was one of my favorite things of the movie.
First of all, let me just say, like, you describing that scene gave me chills. It kind of recreated the actual effect of the actual movie. And you're right. You're right. It was so powerful to show that, this could be a reality. This is one bad leader's bad decision away from being our reality because of the scale of the weapon we created. And Einstein's role, to your question, it was framed intentionally as a minimalist role. Einstein was not involved in the Manhattan Project at all. He had a hand in kind of, let's say, spurring, the argument that this could feasibly, like theoretically, be a weapon. It was a letter written by Albert Einstein, and I forget who else signed that letter, historically speaking. And it was sent to the U.S. president at the time, who read it and determined that this was a real possibility and a threat. And so when the Germans successfully split the atom, this is what kickstarted the project. So Einstein's role from the start was just kind of like an advisory one. His discoveries had long since been kind of shelved in the world of physics, and he was more of like a dinosaur in that realm. And people kind of looked at him as like that jolly old uncle that might have been smart for his time, but you were ahead of him now, and he was kind of an old fart in the physics world. But he was quick to remind Oppenheimer that this is going to be you in a couple of years. They're going to give you a nice plaque, and they're going to pat you on the back and tell you that you did a good job. But ultimately, you're going to be a dinosaur too. You're going to be a relic. No,
Pedro,
I think we can argue that. Yep.
Closing thoughts on the film as a whole. Wrap things up. Summarize. What do you think before we go?
10 out of 10. 10 out of 10. Salient, awesome, symbolic, powerful.
I have a question for each of you. Can you think of another picture that has...
Don't call it a picture. No one...
Another movie
Come on, bro.
that has grasped history as well as Oppenheimer?
That's a question for Pedro, I'll think. Pedro, what do you think?
Schindler's List comes to mind.
Okay, good take.
I think a couple war movies. Schindler's List, Saving Private Ryan, probably Life is Beautiful.
Life is Beautiful is the one that popped into my mind.
I'll add one more, Isaac, if that's okay. I'll add one more. I think All Quiet on the Western Front. It's about World War I from a German perspective. Really good film.
Okay, Pedro, anything else before we end things?
None. Just gents, have a good time, have a good day, and thanks for having me. Really appreciate it.
Thanks for being a fan of the show and a fan of cinema.
Pedro, I'll see you in the office in a few hours, man. I'll see you tomorrow.
I'll see you at work, brother.
Okay, see you, man.
Bye.
Thanks. Okay, so Pedro, good take. Obviously, he's a historian.
He's smart.
He's a smart dude.
He's for real smart.
We're pretty smart. He's smarter than the history stuff than me.
Yeah, Pedro. Yeah, that's why when I left Oppenheimer, I'm like, I want Pedro to see this because he knows so much about this stuff, and I know more about the movie stuff, not so much history stuff. So Pedro, great job, Pedro. I have to text him, good job now. Tal, wrap things up with the fans.
Okay, thanks for the support, fans. We love hearing from you. We've been seeming to get a little more message, a little more feedback about just things that they like about the show. We appreciate that feedback, but please also let us know what you want to hear us about. If you would like to appear as a guest on the show, give us your take, and we'll bring it forward to the committee and decide how we can work you in.
Sure. Okay. I agree. Yeah.
Agreed.
Okay. Anything else now? I got to go to class.
Go Lions.
Okay. Go Lions.